Hey everyone, welcome to Park Right Here. Again, I'm your host, Tom Cosentino. Katrina is going to be joining us in a few minutes. Today, I have the very pleasure of introducing you to Anne. Anne her organization sent me a survey once about Parkinson's and health and I liked the survey. I liked what they were doing. So being me, I picked up the phone or sent them an email saying, I did the survey, but you got to come on my podcast. And we talked back and forth and she agreed. And here's Anne, and I'd like to have her tell you what you're doing, and we'll just open this up for conversation.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Tom, for having me and for inviting me here. Um, it was lovely to get an email back from you and to have you introduce yourself to me. And I'm grateful to be here and to talk to your community a little bit about myself, about Engage Health and the study that we are conducting. We've talked a little bit ahead of time, a lot of it, I hope, ahead of time, and gotten to know each other. I shared with you a little bit about my background, that, I've been in the space of being dedicated to health and disease advocacy for a number of years. I previously worked at a nonprofit organization dedicated to rare disease advocacy, and am now currently at Engage Health, where we're really focused in on bridging that gap between disease communities and researchers, industry partners, and supporting clinical trials and being able to educate clinicians and accelerate that speed to critical therapies that are needed for diseases. And that's really what we were doing when we were reaching out with the survey that you were so lucky to be able to receive from us. And, that survey was one that we were conducting specifically to reach out to the Parkinson's community. And that's your community that you are ingrained in. And I'm, real happy to sit here and talk about it and to learn from you and hopefully learn from Katrina and talk a little bit more about the survey that we're conducting.
Yeah. Well, why don't you give us sort of an overview of the survey, and then we can kind of take it from there. And by the way, if you're listening out there, you got to do the survey. You've got to be part of, I don't want to say if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, but they need to hear from us. And the way they do that is through surveys, because surveys can get that information in a uniform fashion, and they could better take all that data and stream that data and then start applying metrics to it and just start doing things that they do so well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tom. I appreciate that. The goal of this particular survey is to identify opportunities to improve patient care by gathering some real life feedback from the Parkinson's community and recommendations from both patients and caregivers through this survey. The survey is very easy to take. Our organization has been around for over 25 years. Please understand that when you're taking a survey through Engage Health, please, if you have any concerns, go check us out. Your information is protected. We're HIPAA compliant. You can opt in to receive notification about other health research if you would like to. You always have the opportunity to opt out if you would like to not hear from us in the future. But the survey will take, it's open to individuals who are 18 years of age or older who have Parkinson's, along with the caregivers. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes to complete. And you're entered into a drawing, and 8 people who will be selected at the end of the survey time to receive a $250 Amazon gift card.
Cool. I'll wait. I'll look for mine in the mail.
Yeah. No preferential treatment.
Well, you got to ask. One of my I guess better attributes is I'm not afraid to ask anybody. So all you can do is say no.
Yep.
Probably the most important thing my mother taught me was just ask. All I can do is say no.
Always ask. Yes.
So from your perspective, here comes Katrina. I'll give her a moment to say hi.
Lovely.
Let me see. Do I have to add her? Yeah, I guess I do. Well, hello there, sunshine.
Hello, hello. My housekeepers came over, so if you hear them in the background,
We
that's what it is. How are you? Hi, Anne.
Hi, Katrina. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Sorry, I'm little scattered today.
Absolutely. I have those days
I
most
complete
often than not.
I completely forgot they were coming over today. So if you hear them banging around in the background, that's what it is. And she's gonna do my room really fast so I can go back in my room. So how's
the challenges
everything?
of having Parkinson.
Doing all that with Parkinson. It is what it
Well, we just
is.
started doing like introductions and doing a broad overview of what her company is doing. So the one question I had is, from your perspective, how do you develop that engagement, or with the caretakers or the providers or everything else in the world, that someone, whether it's again cancer, Parkinson's, whatever, how do you manage that all?
How do we manage? How do we manage it? Well, um, it's it's something that certainly doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And I think that one of the unique things about Engage Health is that we have been around for a good amount of time, and I think I shared with you guys ahead of time. Uh, they To really know and understand about our organization, you have to know and understand our CEO, and she really is the passion and the experience that drives our organization. She began as her name's Patty, Patty Engel, and she began as a pediatric oncology nurse. And that was her original schooling, and spent some time doing that. And I'm sure, as with your nursing background that you shared with me too, Katrina, being a nurse is a tough job, really tough job. But in her role, she was really finding that she was having to spend a lot of time, weekends and time off, going to funerals of a lot of little kiddos that she was caring for. And it quickly became very draining, much more draining for her. So she moved on to a small little company called 3M after leaving that, and moved into some marketing and sales there, and was very successful in those roles, and helped to launch some products in building up marketing and sales while she was at 3M, and felt very successful in those roles, but also has shared with us, her staff, that they were never products that really felt truly soul filled, meaningful to her. She was
Mm.
looking for that. Right about that time, the Orphan Drug Act passed,
Oh yeah.
and Patty and some friends, colleagues that she had met, looked at that and said, "Gosh, here is something where there are all these organizations that are going to be able to make a significant difference in disease communities that have not had or have struggled or had um, and now have this opportunity." And they formed a company called Orphan Medical, and started to guide um, pharma companies, biotech companies through these new laws
Mm.
in bringing drugs through the new development process, and these new guidelines that fell under the Orphan Drug Act. And they were inundated. They were busy. They were very busy as an organization. And so Patty and her colleagues who had formed this group said to each other, if we are really going to make that difference, make that impact that we need to expand. She then started her own organization, which is Engage Health, the organization that I work for right now. And that was over 25 years ago. And since that time, that has really been her mission to bring that gap of knowledge, of connecting communities, and the knowledge that she has gained of um, the needs directly from communities, and that voice and insights of quality care and knowledge of disease, and bringing it directly to those that are interested in um, what is being done at an industry level for clinical trials and critical therapies, and helping to guide them through that process.
It sounds like it sounds like a great corporation, because I know that here, my husband retired from the military, and we're now in Appalachia, part of Virginia, which is a very resource. I call it a resource desert. I mean, it's between Bristol and Bluefield, so we're in that area. And one thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of Parkinson support groups that they're at least an hour out. I'm trying to get one set up here, but they really want more information about clinical trials, especially this one in Tennessee. It's a young onset group, and they're like desperate for to help, to try in any way to kind of help, and um, to help further the cause for Parkinson's. And it sounds like you have a really great corporation that's helping out to do that. That's really awesome.
Isn't it just sometimes so surprising to all of us in 2024 that sometimes just access even to information
No,
be so slow and so delayed.
and you
I
find a
remember.
lot. I
I
find
remember
that
when
even I'm sorry.
Yep. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I find this very interesting. Even though I like to think I'm a little bit above the average when it comes to seeking out information, it's still it's a chore to find things out. And I like to use the term noise. There's so much access to different information on the internet that it just becomes noise at some point. And it's hard, very difficult to filter out the noises. Not that, I belong to a couple of support groups, and someone will leave a message saying, has anyone taken this prescription? And if so, how did it affect you? And I always want to reply back saying, don't listen to anybody. Only talk to your doctor, because my disease is different than her disease, which is different than the next person's disease. And medication that may work for me isn't necessarily going to work for you.
Right.
And I just find it's that people just are, in a sense, they're letting other people make decisions for them. They've got to become more of an advocate. They've got to be more engaged.
And
I think
obviously, he's never been on Facebook, and the Facebook groups are like, they are full of that. Because after the podcast, I actually do post I have to find a way to streamline this one day, but I go through about 150 Parkinson's groups on Facebook, and down and upload the podcast individually. So I don't over the next couple days I will, as well as put it out I use another website to put it out on like Spotify and Apple and all that. We're very popular on Apple, and so it's really that's what they do. They ask, it's like, this is what I'm going through. Is anybody else going through what I'm going through? And that's kind of was my reason to do the podcast, is because there's so much noise. And it was during the pandemic, especially when people couldn't get a hold of their doctors, and they couldn't face to face anybody, and they were all alone, and they wanted some real information. So it was just me, my computer, and the Davis Finney Every Victory Counts book, and I was just reading out, these are the symptoms, this is what to do, and this is my story. And that's how this all kind of started. And that's a really great way to engage. Engage health. Just the name of it is really cool. It's kind of like Park Right Here. That's what my son came up with that name. So
Absolutely.
I'm really interested in what you have to say, because I'm trying to do the same, try to engage with my community as well, which is a different, I hate to say different type of community, but it really is. Appalachia is really a different world almost at times. Some of the people are different. And it helps that I have a family connection, but there's lack of internet resources here. Most people don't have internet. Most people don't have cell phones. And I'm talking the age of people who usually have Parkinson's.
Do you still
So
use the Pony Express?
at times, you
Okay.
know, actually, it's usually it's not even postal cars. It's people use their personal cars, and it has mail carrier on the side of it, and as they go up the mountain. So I mean, it is really. I mean, my mailbox. I have to drive to my mailbox on the other side of the road and kind of pull off and make sure I don't get hit by a coal truck that's coming down, zipping down the road. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Oh,
it's
that's the
beautiful.
word of the day, ridiculous. That's the second time she said that.
Yep. And there's a lot of places that are very much like that. I think that Appalachia is certainly a significant example. I grew up in rural Minnesota, in farming community, and I know that the mailman out there is still just the volunteer mailman who puts um, puts a little sign on the top of his car, and as a adaptive driver to be able to sit on the opposite side as he's delivering the mail out to the rural farmers every single day when he needs to do that.
And has the snow tires and the winterized and the chains on his tires.
So so many communities where that has you know you know that is where the need for improving access to information, to quality care, to support is oftentimes overlooked or not thought of, or those communities may feel that it's such a significant jump to be able to get to that point. And that's that's something that is hopefully where technology and those that want to try to help to make some impact can help in doing that.
That's awesome. And that's a great, I mean, that's a great philosophy and everything. That's what I would love. I mean, my dream would be to have like a community center with like an internet cafe, where people could have at least go to use the computer and have internet access if they want to look anything up. Because there's so much noise on the internet, though. Like me and Tom always say, we're like, there's only a couple of websites you should ever look at if you have a question about Parkinson's. Because I call, besides the snowflake disease, with it being so individualized, I also call it a DIY disease, because at times, like, I have to drive 4 hours for my movement disorder specialist in the at University of Virginia in Charlottesville. It's about a 4 hour drive. So usually we say Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Davis Finney, APDA. I'm giving them a shout out today. And who else? Michael J. Fox, of course. If you really are good at technical words, you can read NIH. But
No.
even with my background, sometimes it's whoo.
Just go to the summary and NIH. Just go to the abstract or the summary and forget everything in between.
Yeah. But what kind of how can people engage with your company, so to speak?
Absolutely.
How can
Well, certainly being a part of this survey is the start.
And if I wanted to be part of the survey, how do I get to the survey?
Simply in not only sharing the podcast, perhaps you also share the link for the survey. Um, when you do that, maybe in where you post in the comments, so that
Absolutely.
who is listening to the podcast can do that as well. That would be lovely to be able to do that. And if anybody listening uh, misses the link, they can always reach out to us at Engage Health. With them who have trouble doing that, they can.
And do you have a website as well?
We do have a website. We don't necessarily post all of our studies on our website, and that's just to ensure that we're reaching the specific targeted communities that we want to. We're very careful about ensuring that we don't get nefarious people who are trying to be a part of our studies, who are just going to our website trying to take studies. So we try to be real specific with who we're reaching out to, who we're providing links to. So people are vetted and reached out to specifically. So we thought that Tom was an okay person to connect with.
He's really awesome. He's a gift. He was a gift to me when I wanted to reboot the podcast and do it, for video and and expand it. And I went to Davis Finney and went to one of their people and asked who should I, who would work well with me, them knowing me, and they first name that they came up with like really quickly was Tom, and so and he's had to put up with me ever since.
Yeah.
Well,
I
how long
still
have
have the gift receipt.
Podcast together?
About almost a year now, aren't we?
Almost a year. Yeah. I think we hit I think we're at a little over a year, because I remember having a conversation last year, like saying we're not doing it on Thanksgiving because that's a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
yeah, I've always been. It's funny. I've always been the talker in the group, and I always like to convey information. And I remember, and I like to tell you, I like this story because it says who I am. I was in kindergarten. I remember running home from school and saying, "Mom, you'd be so proud of me. I went the whole day without talking." And I like to think that was the last time in my life I ever went 4 hours straight without talking, unless I was sleeping. But conversation comes easy to me, and I don't have issues. I can sit down and have a conversation with anybody, and that's what I like about what we're doing here. It's just conversations.
I am moving rooms. My housekeeper just gave me the thumbs up, so I'm going to go into the bedroom. I'm still watching you. I'll be right back.
All right. Let's say my housekeeper gave me the thumbs up, but that's my wife, so I don't want to do that. I'm an equal opportunity husband.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's great. So, Katrina was talking a little bit about some of the different groups that you guys are connected with. And this survey, although it's open to the entire Parkinson's community, where we really want to gather information that can really give us, a landscape and information from the entire Parkinson's community about their perspectives. We hope that it will be used specifically in focusing in on early Parkinson's. Are there groups that you guys work with or are aware of that are specific? I think you mentioned one, Katrina, that was in Tennessee.
I'll let Katrina go first, and I'll jump in.
Yeah, it's a support group and it's only for young onset. So it's like 40 to 55, something like that. I was 42, but I was a speaker at the group. It's in Elizabethton, Tennessee, which is outside of Bristol. And I can definitely get um, after the podcast, we can exchange information because I'm going actually to do a talk next month down
Okay.
there again. And sometimes I just go down to hang out with them and go out and have a dinner or whatever because they're a much bigger group than I thought they would be. And also, in November, I'm going to the Roanoke support group, which is an extremely large one. It's one of the largest in Virginia, actually, I found out. And they just sponsored or helped out with an APDA, American Parkinson's Disease Association event, a conference in Roanoke. And so I'm also on the board of directors for APDA of Virginia, and I'm the Western representative for the Western Virginia representative for them. So, but they have a lot of APDA, American Parkinson's Disease Association, has a lot of connections that could, with early or young or even just newly diagnosed. When I was at the conference, there were so many people. One person was just diagnosed the day before, and they heard about the conference. I mean, there were so many people who were newly diagnosed. And there's also a couple of doctors I can get you in touch with as well, and as well as my at UVA. So there's, of course,
like I belong in numerous support groups as well, online support groups. And we have the ability, fortunately, to have access to hundreds and hundreds of people. If they choose to listen, that sometimes that's the chance. But yeah, I mean, things like this, when I did the survey, I found it to be a very good survey. And I do believe that as a community, we're stronger together than we are individually. And the only way we can improve ourselves is through that common knowledge, so that companies such as yours can take that information and digest it. And you can do so much more with that than any of us can do individually.
Absolutely. It's about sharing your information, sharing what you know, and knowing that you are helping to pave a path and try to make it a little smoother for someone else.
Yeah.
And
one of the things I like about our podcast is I studied economics, and there's macro and there's micro. I'm a macro guy. I'm a big guy. I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'd rather spend my time doing something like this or talking to a large group of people than attending my local support group meeting, because that's more of a social event. And so she's kind of slightly the opposite. She's the people person. I'm going to not say in a negative way. I'm the brains of the operation. She's the front person. But I find
He's the brains. I'm the heart. We'll
yeah,
be honest.
I don't have a heart. I have, but
more than he'll ever let you know.
Yeah, I'm always looking for that opportunity to present information to as largest audience as possible. And, thank you, but that's not for me, is it?
No, that's my daddy.
But your dad. Oh,
yeah. I lost him in May
this year. Yeah, thank you for sharing that story with me. I appreciate it.
I almost want to apologize for that. It was my hypomanic episode. I tend to get a little wordy, but it was just something I needed to let off last night. I was just thinking about him, and so I was daddy's little girl, so he's my hero. And one thing he was very adamant about was, because he knows me so well, and as Tom does now too, that I tend to back away or run away from, I'll give up on things. One thing I haven't given up was on the podcast. And my dad says, I am your biggest fan. I always will be. I listened every week, and don't stop, just keep going. And it's like, if I can just let one person or two, a couple people know, like he said, I'm micro, just to let them know not to give up. And that's very important with what you're doing, because that helps people realize, give them hope, that it's not, the end of the world. I've had Parkinson's for 13 years now. And since I was 42, and my daughter was 5, she's a senior this year. And then I have my son who's 30, who is going to make me a grandma for the first time in December. And so a lot of life changes this year.
Yeah.
But it's like when you're going through, you just have to keep, and having that hope, and your surveys and you being able to do that really helps people at a personal level say, people are caring about what we're doing, what we're going through. And that really helps. I think that really helps people.
Yep. And a lot of times it's, as you said, you may feel like it's one person, you may feel like it's nobody, or that you're not reaching anybody, or you're just sometimes I feel like I'm doing reports or doing things behind a desk, but I always will check myself, or our organization will step back and say, do you know what, we know that our impact is greater, because we know that it rolls to that benefit that is not only just to the current communities and the current clients, the current patients that we work with and that we get to interact. We get the joy to interact with. Getting to you today has been a joy, but it's those future generations too, those future communities, those future people that we have yet to meet. And that we know that we're learning from what we're doing right now and what that may translate to in the future.
Yeah, it's I know that only less than 10 or 20% are genetic. Parkinson's patients are genetic, and so there's something out there that that we're being exposed to. I know I grew up in the military during the Cold War, so Lord only knows what, on an Air Force base during, when a lot of nuclear weapons and stuff were on the bases. I actually, when you said Minnesota, I lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so I can relate to the Minnesota thing. And there was a lot of, and also there's some kind of foam that the Air Force used. I don't know if they still use it or not, but it's been linked to Parkinson's, and because it has some forever chemicals in it that they use to put out jet fuel fires. And so who knows, because my dad was in law enforcement and security, so I kind of, went everywhere with him. I was his shadow. So, but also paraquat, I know we're trying to get banned in the US and Australia. It's banned in over 80 countries because of Parkinson's and other, neurological and cancers and stuff like that. So, it's what you're doing is like amazing. So that's because to find a cure, you have to do the legwork, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, touching on something Katrina said about the non-environmental, I was just reading an article today about that they only think that, not genetically, they think about 18 to 20%, but they also don't believe that the genetics are passed down from generation to generation, which is good. But just about a month ago, I was in the Army in 1977 in basic training, and just about a month and a half ago, I was finally determined to be 100% disabled through the VA. And I was at Fort McClellan, Alabama in 77, and I spent 4 months there. And so they think the whole gist of the argument was that exposure to the toxins at Fort McClellan is what triggered or caused the Parkinson's. And I didn't think I was going to get any kind of award. I was just shocked when they gave me 100% disability. And now I'm on the side note, I'm working with some veteran organizations saying, listen, I'm the only, so far from my understanding, there's no one else that came from that place that had been found a determination of disabled through the VA. Use my story. Let people out there know that if you were at Fort McClellan and you have Parkinson's or neurological disease, there is somebody who fought this, went through and won.
Yeah, they're even doing studies now with children of Vietnam veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange, which is my dad. My dad was exposed to Agent Orange, and that's he had cancer, and that's why he had so many cancers and health issues. So they're even looking at us, and seeing if through DNA or through if we have some we have the exposure as well because of that. So who knows?
Yeah, what I didn't know at the time was Fort McClellan actually produced chemicals during the Vietnam War, one of which was Agent Orange, and of course those toxins got into the soil and that could be what caused the Parkinson's. But
most people don't think that was in the U.S. They only think it was in Vietnam, but it was Agent Orange was in the U.S. as well. Yeah. So I think what is the website so I can or actually so Tom's in charge today. I'm sorry, I'm used to be.
It's a long link. I don't have it in front of me. I'm gonna have to email it to you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get it added.
It's the one thing that when I responded to you this morning and sent you a little bit of background information, I was thinking about that just a few moments ago here and said, gosh, that would have been smart of me to be able to send the actual link to the survey as well, but 99% there, I guess. So.
And I'll put it in the little blurb I put with for each Facebook group and with everything.
I appreciate it very much. Yeah, it's just a chance to be a part of sharing your experiences from the Parkinson's community. You hear so much about patient voice, and this is you're doing a survey, so you're not really giving your voice, but our organization through this survey gathers this information to say it's coming from our patients, and everything that drug companies, biopharmaceutical companies should have that patient-centered view. It should be based on information that comes from patient community. And Tom and I were talking a little bit ahead of time that, that should always be that spark, that spark of where research should go, should always start from, that guiding information of connecting with and talking with the communities. So, we hope that the community will be a part of and want to take part in this survey and help to be that spark.
That would be
to
great.
add to that, I was talking earlier that I'm a peer reviewer for the Department of Defense. Scientists will submit applications for funding for Parkinson's research, and they had two of us consumers, which were in essence Parkinson's individuals. And I remember the conversation initially saying, would you be intimidated by in a room or on a Zoom call with a bunch of scientists? I'm like, absolutely not. They need to be intimidated of me because I'm there because I have something they don't, which unfortunately is Parkinson's. So at the end, I like what they really said because it was very clinical, very data-driven conversations going back and forth through the scientists. And at one point I jokingly said, hey guys, can you translate this into English so I can understand what you're talking about? But at the end, we all agreed that our experiences, the science community only sees it from the science community's perspective. And for them to sit there and listen to us for 5+ hours, 2 days in a row, to give our insights and how this impacts us was very well worth
it. That's like reading an NIH case study for me at times, but yeah, so it's really, sorry, one of the cats got in here. We have 4. So, yeah, I see you, Pumpkin. And so, but it's really awesome. I've met a couple of pharmaceutical reps, and most of them are pretty good. I remember when I worked as a nurse in outpatient mental health, that some of the doctors would not even meet with the reps, and definitely did not want any of the swag. But my office was filled with the swag. I had like Celexa clocks and It was a mental health, and I had, the mouse pads and all that. And because, when it comes down to it, they really need to listen to the patient. And I had a really good rep who actually had never, for Ambrosia, and he had never seen anybody actually, take Ambrosia. And I've taken it since it actually, before it went on the market, because of my doctor was a part of the group who came up with Ambrosia, and from Colorado. And so I demonstrated it for him for a whole bunch of people at an event. And so, I mean, it's that kind of caring and one-on-one at times to get behind the scenes and to understand what our journey is like, and what we have to go through. Because it was kind of funny, because I had started taking Ambrosia in 2018, and the very first time I took it, I was with the nurse, and when you take a big puff of it, because it's pure powdered levodopa, which is good because it doesn't go through the GI system, so you don't need the carbidopa. And so I took it, and the first thing I did was cough really hard. And I'm like, I said, can you take a drink of water before you puff on it? And there was nothing in the manual about it. And so, and I said, can you just take littler puffs? I mean, that was the first thing that came to my head. And it took them until 2023 to completely change their instructions to take a glass of water, to take little puffs. And I'm like, you should have listened to me back in 2018. I mean, that kind of, if that's why you need to listen to the people who are taking the medicine instead of, just. So if that's kind of my
information on to the subsequent new patients,
which I did,
newly diagnosed, who maybe experienced those exact same frustrations, right?
Because somebody who's not as clinical as I am, or as who clinically thinking as me, I've read that a lot of people just give up on Ambrosia because it makes them cough, and I'm like, don't give up on it. I mean, just take a good sip of milk or something that will coat your throat and coat your whole back, everything, and just don't give up, and talk to your doctor about it. But this is what worked for me. But talk to your doctor about it first, and that's always our disclaimer. I'm no longer a nurse. I'm no longer licensed. We're not doctors. We're not medical professionals. So always talk to your doctor and your medical professionals before anything.
Even though I have a PhD in every subject from the University of YouTube, I'm still not the person you want to ask about medication.
Yeah, my husband became that this weekend when he had to fix our shower. Little things like that. It's like YouTube is great. Mm-hmm. Oh,
So,
sweetie.
and when you finally get all the surveys in and during the time period that you're looking for, what is your hope or your intention to do with all that data? Or what's the hope for that data?
Well,
Crap.
our hope is that it will lead to another study, and that it will continue to be built upon, and that that study may turn into something more than a study, maybe go down the road of other things within the clinical development process. That's always our hope.
Yeah.
At minimum, it's us, adding to the information that we have gathered from years and years and years of reaching out to the patient community and being able to step back and to say, we are an organization that has these resources, and with all of the other companies and connections that we do have, we now do have some of this information, and maybe it is that spark for some
Good.
people.
Yep,
So
that's
for our friends out there in the Parkinson's community, when we post this information, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, fill out the survey, because the more information they get, the better they can understand this community and the better they can utilize that data in helping to help the communities. Yep, there's the cat.
Yeah, appreciate it,
Yeah.
everybody. And don't forget that if you do participate, there's that opportunity to win an Amazon gift card for 8 of the participants. So at minimum that.
There you go.
At minimum for 5-10 minutes of your time. Something
I used
going
to be in
into our
sales.
holiday season.
sorry, a cat just wandered out of my room. I appreciate you guys being patient with me today. I'm just kind of I'm scatterbrained a little today. This is, and that's what I said. The podcast is real life. It's some days, even if I'm dyskinesic and like this, I don't hide it. I'm like this is what it is.
Important.
This is life.
Very much, very much.
So. But today, actually, I've been doing pretty good. So thank goodness, because I got everything else is going on. But I apologize for any disruption today. And I appreciate your patience.
Oops.
Which Tom has it buckets and buckets full of. Right, Tom?
Well, Tom's computer is starting to lag. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Mm-mm. No.
Well, that's interesting because you guys are coming in and out. So, well, we're coming up almost on the top of the hour, and we try to keep this between 2 and 3. So I just want to say, Ann, thank you for being with us. And if there's any last minute things you'd like to share with us, and just remember, folks out there, we'll be following up with the link to her survey. And please, again, if I can ask you to do anything, spend 5 minutes, spend 10 minutes, do the survey, be part of the answer. And that way it's more of an engagement. Who knows where that's going to lead.
Yeah, because it's very important for us to be as involved as other people are, because it's our journey. I mean, it's almost our responsibility to, that's why I do surveys at Michael J. Fox. I was part of the genetic thing with Michael J. and 23andMe that they did, and he paid for me to have a 23andMe account. His foundation did, and you need to be part of the solution. I mean,
Absolutely.
Tom and Katrina, first of all, I appreciate the invitation to be a
I'm
part
glad
of the
you-
podcast. Thank you so much for inviting me. I just appreciate meeting both of you and having some time to speak with you and get to know both of you a little bit better. And thank you for letting me share
my pleasure.
about our organization and the survey to the Parkinson's community. And we just appreciate anyone to take some time to be a part of the survey. Again, you're doing something to help hopefully bring, that voice, your experiences to the forefront, and help hopefully to pave a path and have that information used for those generations in the future for some good.
Good, great.
that's awesome. It was wonderful to meet you, Ann, and just stay on afterwards, and we can privately talk. But it was great to have you on. I hope to have you on again, and just keep us updated on what's going on with your company, and we'll keep everyone else updated as well, now that you're kind of part of the Park Right Here community, which of course is, I have to give our email if anyone has questions or wants us, if we can link you up with Ann and her company, Engage Health Incorporated. So it's Park Right Here Podcast, ParkRightHere podcast at gmail.com, as well as Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Yep.
I still get a kick out when they refer to X, formerly known as Twitter. We all know it's formerly known as Twitter. Let's just keep it at X, please.
Yep. And soon to be TikTok, but not quite yet. We're getting there.
Well, again, thank you for your time. It's been wonderful, and I'm glad you took us on the invitation to join us. It has been very nice.
Yeah. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, be safe.
Next week, same time next week.
And don't forget that station.
Yep.
All right.
And Tom is in charge of the button.
I'm hitting the button.
Yep.
Well, we're still live, folks. So, by the way, this is a technical issue. When you hit and stream, it should actually stop streaming. But